What up, cuckolds? It's your boy, the hater, up in this mug. And I just wanted to do a quick rant on Solo Sikoa as a leadership figure, all right? Let's be real, okay? I don't think anybody that watches wrestling can accept Solo Sikoa as being a leader, you know? In the many factions that wrestling has presented to us, and I don't just mean WWE, you know, you can talk about factions that existed in ECW, WCW, even AEW, TNA, all these factions, right? A strong leader is paramount to a faction, right? Sometimes the faction calls for a new guy to be a leader, right? So a great example would be the Nexus. The Nexus had Wade Barrett as the leader. That's just how that was. But even then, Wade Barrett was like the de facto leader. It really wasn't about being leaders, right? Like the Nexus was kind of presented as like this unified group, right? Like they're willing to like kick ass. And the Nexus was a great idea because they were like the first good thing to come out of NXT and one of the only things to come out of NXT. But at the end of the day, because they were all presented as rookies, like Bray Wyatt didn't feel like a powerful leader, and that's why he was jobbed out to the likes of John Cena. Ultimately, this led to what's his name? Did I call him Bray Wyatt? What the fuck's his name? Fucking Barrett, Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett then went on to become the leader of the Core, which was a complete disaster. I personally thought it was just fine. I thought it was the same thing as the Nexus, but it was presented as a complete disaster. So the reason why I bring this up is because it hasn't been a long time since Retribution, and I believe personally that if you discount Retribution, that we have two factions now that are gonna pop off anytime. Like anytime it's gonna be their time. You can make the argument that the Bloodline is on top of SmackDown. Actually, you can definitely make that argument because they beat Cucky Rhodes. So, you know, you have Solo Sikoa leading one faction, and you have Bo Dallas leading another faction. Let that sink in for a second, motherfucks. One faction is being led by Bo Dallas, and the other by Solo Sikoa. If you discount Retribution, which also was led by a jobber, it hasn't been since the Nexus and since the Core that we've had a faction led by complete jobbers. And when I say a faction, I don't mean like, you know, like if you decide to, you know, have like a mini faction of cruiserweights or something like that, like, you know, that doesn't count. I'm talking about a real faction. Not like the social outcast. I'm talking about like a main event type faction, right? So we have good old fucking Solo Sikoa as a leader, and we've got Bo Dallas as a leader. Now, Solo Sikoa specifically because, you know, at the end of the day, I will give Bo Dallas an opportunity, right? Like, I'm going to give him a shot, like in the sense that maybe he will entertain me, you know? Like, I mean, his promos are, in my opinion, complete shit, but the way that he's delivering them, for example, is pretty good, right? Like, it's not his fault that they're giving him, like, this other shit gimmick. I mean, it probably is his fault, because, like, this is, like, from the mind of Bray Wyatt. Like, the fact that we have to pretend that Bray Wyatt was this creative genius is, like, one of the dumbest things ever. But anyways, it's neither here nor there. The point is, focusing on Solo Sikoa, who we've seen a lot of, right? Solo Sikoa is doing a good job. You know, I don't want to take that away from him. Like, Solo Sikoa is picking up, like, what was left for him, you know? And if you were to, like, you know, for lack of a better phrase, adjust the ratings on WWE 2K24, Solo Sikoa will have gone up in the ratings since WrestleMania, right? His stock has risen. You know, the stock of other people hasn't really risen. I think only his stock really, and Chad Gable, I would say, their stocks have risen since WrestleMania, and everybody else is like either where they were or below, you know? So with all that being said, I do want to use that caveat and just kind of explain that Solo Sikoa is doing the best he can with what he's being given. However, Solo Sikoa has never been presented as being anywhere remotely close to Roman Reigns, right? And that's not his fault. You know, you can make the argument, like, if, for example, Solo Sikoa had become I don't know why they didn't do this, honestly, during, like, the fucking, especially if they had this plan in mind, during the real Bloodline, when the Usos became tag team champions, it would have been okay for Solo Sikoa to have, like, the Intercontinental title, you know, or the U.S. title, or both maybe. You know, I don't care. That would have been a good idea because then you would, like, especially if you had both. Like, imagine if Solo Sikoa had both the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title, right? It's like, all right, you can make an argument that he's second only to Roman, right? And then it's like, okay, Roman Reigns, the number one guy, is gone. So who's it going to be now? Who's going to be the leader? It's not going to be Jimmy Uso. It's going to be the guy that was the mid-card champion. But he didn't get anything. The only thing he's won in WWE is the North American title. He had it for a day, you know? So he's represented as Roman Reigns' vast inferior. So it doesn't make any sense for him to lead this faction. You couldn't get The Rock back. That's fine, obviously. But the problem is exactly this, right? Because the Bloodline is now a jobber faction. Like, you can pretend all you want that Jacob Fatu is like this intimidating force and a potential main eventer. He's not. And by the way, motherfucks, all the people that were like, I can't wait till Jacob Fatu, signs. Oh, this guy's different. No, he's not different. Like, dude, like, honestly, and I don't mean to offend anybody that's a fan of mine and of Jacob Fatu's, but I gotta say it like it is, motherfucks. Do you people that like Jacob Fatu actually use your minds and think to yourself, oh shit, this guy is better than Umaga? If so, why? What does he do that Umaga doesn't do? You know, that's the problem that I have. It's like a few people, a few murmurs, right, in the internet start saying, Jacob Fatu is good. And then people are like, yeah, he is. He's good. He's great. He's amazing. He's the best. Wait a second. How did that come to be? Did you use any actual mental faculties to conclude this? Like, did you ask yourself, wait a second. Why is everyone saying Jacob Fatu is great? What makes him great? I've heard some people say things like, he can do a triple jump moonsault or a BME. Like, so can Tiffany Stratton. Rosie used to do a split-legged moonsault. Nobody was saying Rosie was better than The Rock, right? Nobody was saying Rosie's the best Samoan wrestler. They were like, there goes Rosie. He's superhero in training. He's subordinate to Gregory Helms. See what I'm saying? Like, this idea that all of a sudden people are pretending that Jacob Fatu is anything special. It's like, thus far, I haven't seen him do one move that's not part of the Samoan moveset. In WWE, at least. So enough of this shit. Use your fucking minds a little bit, right? This is all that one of the goals of the Hater channel, quick tangent, cucks. One of the goals of the Hater channel is to expose the bullshit and the lies that happen in wrestling, right? They think you're stupid, motherfucks. They think you're stupid. Do you understand? They really think they can get away with taking Bray Wyatt, putting on another mask, presenting him as a scary guy, and you're like, wow, this is different. They really think they can have Cody Rhodes grow a mustache, and you dipshits, you fucking retards are going to be like, oh, that's a new gimmick, the mustache gimmick. Like, they know you're dumbasses, and they're taking advantage of it by selling you dumb shit. Use your mind and ask yourself, wait a second, everyone's saying Jacob Fatu is amazing. What makes him amazing? Find 10 reasons. 10 reasons why Jacob Fatu is better than Umaga or Rosie. Why is he better than Rosie? Okay, a few reasons. He's in better shape, right? But he's not as big. He's not as tall. In my opinion, he's not as athletic as Rosie. And he's not as intimidating looking as Rosie, right? He doesn't have any different moves. Rosie also had the Samoan moveset. Umaga also had the Samoan moveset. Rikishi also had the Samoan moveset. You know, of all the Samoans that are not The Rock, and of course, obviously Roman Reigns, Rikishi's the best one by far because he at least tried to entertain. Yeah, he was a goof. Yeah, he thought he was a black guy. Yeah, he thought he could rap, and he's one of the worst rappers in the history of rap, right there with Swerve Strickland, right? But at least he tried. He thought he could dance, so he tried to do that. He tried to make the children laugh, right? But Jacob Fatu doesn't do any of these things. So, again, I don't want to digress here into a Jacob Fatu rant because that's probably going to be another video, cucks. But the reality is this. The stable that is being led by Solo Sikoa cannot be anything other than a bunch of jobbers that Roman Reigns is going to squash. The reason for that is self-evident. The entire purpose of it is for Roman Reigns to squash them, but I cannot take them seriously until then. And that's why Roman needs to come back immediately. Because if he doesn't, then we're going to see a bunch of other six-man tag matches with the fucking Fatu family beating up other wrestlers that people actually like Randy Orton, right? It doesn't matter. Like, you know for a fact that if somehow in 3 years, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa are still in the company, you know for a fact that you can expect, like, oh, here is a beat the clock challenge. And the challenge will be, will Randy Orton beat Camacho in under 3 minutes or not, right? Like Camacho and these guys are going to be on that level. They're never going to be these like legitimate main eventers. So the fact that being presented as such is very discouraging. You know, it really shows once again that wrestling has fallen. Maybe that'll be the retroactive name to this series. Wrestling has fallen, video 2. Cucks.